Hi friends, in Planet Earth Dating, it's Saturday, August 31st, 2019. In both the Lynn life and the Jamie body mind, the authorized souls remain only child souls from the deeper, denser dimensions, and all other souls from all other dimensions, as long as the souls are already living by the many rules already given to the search for truth community by wiser minds above all of us. And we find that very few souls are living by those rules, and we find that troubling.
That's true.
For whom is the message, and why do you ask? We've been receiving a lot of messages about corruption this last several days, and we know that the filming assignment has to do with corruption somehow, and we can see the presences up in that room of angels and godly presences who are responsible for planet Earth. And we can see the ones of them who are interested in speaking to this topic of corruption. And we can also see the others who are not interested in speaking to this topic of corruption.
That's true.
And that's disappointing, because we would want to think that they all would be interested in this topic of corruption, but the truth is they aren't. And if we're not interested in the topic of corruption, don't we want to think about what that says about us?
I don't feel anybody moving upstairs.
No, nobody's moving, nobody's changing their position, and that's okay, that's how it typically is.
That's true.
So let's focus on the presence who's there, who wants to talk about corruption. And it's not a high status soul. It's kind of like somebody who's in the room as a servant of the gods, kind of. I'm there to do whatever it is they want to do. And the person who's there as the servant is extremely disturbed by the presence of corruption. And specifically, if I am understanding what they're talking about how resources are being sent into the depths purportedly for the benefit of the nature realms, but that they aren't getting to the natural world. Those resources are getting, I think they're saying, hijacked.
That's the word I heard also.
By other presences, and that's just wrong, and that humanity is here to tend the planet and care for it, not to own it and destroy it, and that this is God's planet, and the resources that are coming in for the natural world are supposed to be spent for the benefit of the natural world, not to destroy the natural world.
That's what he's saying.
Friends, nobody listens to us. This is a boots on the ground soul is saying, you're really, really wasting your time. If that's your message, to be sending that message through these vessels, because nobody listens to these vessels.
No, that's true.
That's a message that would be better sent through some vessel or conduit that has a wider audience.
That's true.
And somebody's talking about how you can tell when a channel is telling the truth consistently, because eventually the channel will irritate everyone.
That's what he's saying. It's true.
If you're not irritating everyone, then there's truths that you're omitting.
That's true.
And to consider, what is it that you need to be saying, that you're supposed to be saying, that you haven't said because you know the other parties won't like it. They're pointing to this person who's now dead.
That's true.
And he had a very strong personality and was very aggressive and vindictive, and as a result many people would avoid irritating him.
Yes, that's
because
true.
they didn't want to deal with the fallout. And he was a complex individual, and he did a lot of things, and some of them were good and some of them were not good. And he could have used people standing up to him when he was doing the not good things.
That's true.
It would have been a service to him. But very few people had the courage to do that. And that the ones who did stand up for what the situations actually called for, invariably paid a price for that.
That's true.
Why are you talking about that guy? And they've shown that particular character was an actual human. They're calling him character.
That's true.
And they're showing him as a representation for the spirit world as an overall presence or
yes, that's true.
category of presences. The spirit world being angels and godly presences. And there's really discussion whether or not spirit world includes what we would call dead people.
Yeah, that's true.
Because the dead people, the souls, have legal standing under divine law and therefore are protected by spirit world rules.
That's true.
Whereas the host lives, the denser dimension lives, don't have legal standing under divine law and are not protected by divine law.
That's true.
The souls are supposed to protect the lives, but in an era of astral collapse, the souls and the lives have become disconnected from each other. So the lives are being left to deteriorate into their worst versions of themselves.
Yeah.
And the souls are just living like parasites, sadly.
That's true.
For whom is the message, and why do you ask? And what does this have to do with corruption and the resources being sent to the nature realms? I feel it has to do with the resources being sent to the nature realms because they're being sent in through individuals who have the soul contracts to stand up for nature.
That's
the people
true.
where the resources, the humans, where the resources are being concentrated are supposed to be standing up for nature.
Oh,
And
that's
instead
right.
they're pretending that they aren't supposed to. Like the individual in question has many large real estate holdings, and he could very well have solared all of those real estate holdings, but he didn't.
That's true.
And it begs the question, why not? Why didn't he solar them if he was purportedly standing up for nature? And somebody else is saying, well, he didn't solar them because he said it wasn't a good business move at the time he was making those decisions. And so he had this odd dichotomy in his thinking that he should make good business moves that hurt nature.
Yes, that's
and then
right.
also stand up for nature kind of like separately, maybe as a hobby or something.
That's true.
Like, I'll destroy nature in my day job, but then help nature as my nights and weekends occupation.
That's right.
And there's no integrity in that.
No, that's true. It doesn't actually balance out the way he seemed to think it would.
Oh, interesting. No, he did.
Because, I feel the feeling of he thought if I do this much good, then it can balance out
all the bad
things that are smart business moves that I must make to be a smart businessman.
Okay, so this is what they keep circling around to, and now they're making full eye contact, which is often a signal of guardian angels or something like that.
Oh, that feels true.
And they're saying, listen, what you do in your day job counts so much more than you think it does, and everybody wants to think, well, I had to do that bad thing, and it was just part of my job and I couldn't possibly say no.
Yeah, that's the
and
feeling.
They're pointing to when you see your boss breaking the law.
Yes.
Let's say you see your boss embezzling his partners.
That's what they're saying.
And then what do you do about that? And you could very well stop that. Anybody could, by just saying, listen, you need to stop that or I'm going to tell your partners what you're doing. And people don't tend to do that because they say, well, I can't do that, I would lose my job. And they can do that, and if they lose their job, then so be it.
That's true.
There's always going to be a price to pay for doing the right thing.
That's true.
In the short run. But in the long run, not doing the right thing is murdering this planet and is destroying non-human life, and more than 98% of humans, according to the angels and godly presences responsible for planet Earth, more than 98% of the humans are going to be reborn in terrible, terrible, terrible situations, and they use factory farms as an example
That's true.
of the terrible situations in which those humans are going to be reborn. But that's
it's not limited to those.
No, it's not. Thank you. What is it you want to say about corruption? We really want to serve, to help whoever it is who's wanting to say something about corruption, because it's the highest vibration voice in the room, and it doesn't matter that it's a low status soul. It's like all their bosses have gone crazy. That person, they're supposed to say to their bosses, "Stop it or I'll tell on you."
That
basically.
Person in that higher dimension room.
That person who's in the room of angels and godly presences affiliated with planet Earth is supposed to start relaying up the messages to even higher dimensions, to the gods above the gods, above the gods, above the gods, above the gods, that corruption is a problem, and that the resources that are being sent in through the nature realms are being siphoned off to attack the nature realms under the pretense that that's an appropriate use of the resources.
That's true.
For him is the message. Why do you ask?
It's just really quiet upstairs.
It's really quiet. Friends, there's a hurricane coming.
That's true.
And
during the time that this is being filmed.
Right, it's coming. And we really want the hurricane to inflict a lot of damage on the power elite who is destroying our planet. And we're not sure who's saying that, but somebody does. It's a group of presences of important, good quality angels.
That's true.
That the host lives are completely willing to pay whatever personal price we have to pay for that.
That's true.
It's okay. We're in the path of the hurricane, and that's okay. And that we would far rather be in the path of the hurricane and pay the personal price than for the hurricane to be wasted. This is another category for hurricane.
That's true.
And let's not waste it. Let's hit those who are making the decisions about continuing our polluting and planet destroying ways. Please. Please.
I think I understand the connection.
What?
So earlier, the presences upstairs were talking about the resources being sent down, presumably to the nature realms, but being hijacked, and this hurricane is one of those resources, and a way to tell if it's being hijacked or if it's actually being used to support the nature realms.
I don't think, I disagree. If somebody's saying I disagree, this hurricane is created by the nature realms. This isn't a resource being sent in. This is something the nature realms has made.
Oh, well, that feels true.
So what we have, we believe, is two arguing voices in that room up there.
That's true.
Go on.
Because that's true, because if you look at the very birth of the hurricane, like where did it actually start, you can see nature realms' presence. It's kind of like they're fanning
the flames.
Yeah.
Kind of like,
So that's how that would start.
Right. So now they're even willing to steal the nature realm's self-created resources.
Yes.
And still defend the power elite who is destroying the nature realms. That's what
true.
They're doing.
That's what that is.
For him is the message. Why do you ask? We really think that it's time for the balance of resources to shift. It's unclear who's speaking, but it might be that voice who's been talking about corruption. And they're saying, let's shift the resources and send them to the trees instead of to humans. Trees will absorb carbon from the atmosphere and hold it. Humans are emitting carbon into the atmosphere and destroying all life on Earth.
That's true.
So let's stop funding humans and start funding trees. And there's like a petition upstairs. What now to reopen a portal to actual godly presences who aren't being warped by corruption. Now to reopen a portal
The
to
actual
godly presences who aren't being warped by corruption. Do you hear anything?
No.
Very quiet.
This could be that feeling of that lower status presence who was speaking in that higher dimension room, sneaking out of the room. I thought it felt like he just didn't want to be fired.
He doesn't want to be fired. This is a problem. Friends, those of you who are ready to stand up on behalf of the planet, we will pay a price in the short run, presumably, for that, but somebody has to do it. And when we're looking back on our lives, those of us who have not done anything are going to feel really badly about that. Really, really badly. Not to mention the karmic price.
That's true.
So now is the time to act. Maybe what happened is that one presence who wanted to talk about corruption expected others to chime in.
That's what this feeling is.
And nobody is chiming in yet.
Yeah.
And that presence is feeling like I can't possibly do it all by myself.
That's true.
But they can.
It feels true.
Yeah, all they have to do is just say, "I want to tell on you by next week."
That's
if you don't confess, friends, if you're not confessing the things that you've done wrong, then you're poisoning yourself, and you can confess them to God by any name, to God as you perceive God or relate to God.
That's true.
And to another person of your density and species, somebody who speaks your language, who that person can understand what it is you're telling them, and tell them the bad things that you've done. And we've all done bad things, so don't get all weird about it.
Not weird.
Just say, these are some of the many bad things that I've done, and tell that person the bad things that you can think of right then.
That's true.
And tell them as a witness for the divine, and you'll feel better. And then what will happen is other bad things will bubble up, and you can confess them also. Confession is actually a beautiful way of healing, or beginning the process of doing what it might take to head in the direction of healing a soul.
That's true.
Consider it. For whom is the message? And why do you ask? They keep circling around. There's these three situations that we have been able to observe through these earthly vessels.
That's true.
That are actively ongoing situations of corruption. And they're playing out just right in front of us. It's not like on the global scale. There's plenty of situations of corruption there also, but these are situations that we know very well through personal experience.
That's true.
And they all stink or reek of corruption.
That's true.
If we don't stand up against corruption, if we don't speak out about corruption, then we're siding with the corrupt. If we don't do something to stop the lying, to refute the lies, we're standing with the liar. If we don't do something to reveal the cheat, we're standing with the cheater. If we don't do something to stop the thief, we're standing with the thief. If we don't do something to stop the bully, we're siding with the bully. And that's the truth. For whom is the message, and why do you ask?